All right, thanks for sticking with us through the end of this. I've just got a few slides to wrap up, and then just a few closing thoughts for the summit. And so, first of all, thanks to everybody for being here, right? Our steering committee tries to think of what our audience wants. And so I really appreciate everybody who put your comments on our comment tree over there. If you haven't already done so, and you've got some burning question or complaint for me, that's totally fine. Put it on the tree, let us know. We're gonna compile those and share the results of all those comments back with all the registrants of this summit and our network. And so your feedback is really great for us so that we can help bring you a more engaging and informative summit. And speaking of that, thanks so much to all of our sponsors who help us do that, right? The theme, which I neglected to talk about in the intro, is really that we're empowered for pollinators. And our communities are what have empowered us over the past few years. Empowered us to bring you this summit, empowered to make change within our communities, empowered to plant habitat, and empowered to make policy changes which impact our pollinators and our people, right? So a big thanks to all of our sponsors. When we wrap up, if there are still people at the exhibitors tables, go network, continue to have those conversations. And a big thank to our Summits team. Again, if you would like to be a part of our planning committee, reach out, talk to one of us, let us know how we can be a part. And I just wanted to end on something that's been kind of a common thread through the entire summit, which is I love these guys, right? It's probably pretty obvious that I'm biased towards insects and pollinators, and specifically native bees, right? They're beautiful, they're fascinating, they're important, ecologically, culturally. This is one of my favorite pictures that we took in the CU Museum of Natural History. This is a bee that doesn't have a real accepted common name. The scientific name here up on the upper right, Osmia ribiflorus. Anybody want to take a guess at what ribiflorus means? Ribes. Everybody know what ribes is? Wax currants. The wax currant bee, maybe, right? And this is a beautiful bee which we can value for its aesthetic value. It's beautiful, it's striking. We can value it because of, as Jamara pointed out yesterday, the cultural significance, because this thing pollinates our early season wax currants and our wild plums and a lot of the indigenous foods that our people relied on, right? We can value it because it's one of the most effective pollinators of our early season rosaceous crops. And even when they occur with honeybees, make them even more efficient pollinators. There's lots of reasons we can value this bee. And yet, as Talia pointed out, with our fossil pollinators, this bee has been here a long time. Our bees have been here millions of years. Our butterflies, millions of years. Our invertebrates, millions of years before we were, or we developed our value system. And I would argue that this community has helped us make other peoples recognize that they have value on their own. Intrinsic value, right? And so I just want to thank everybody else who's been here, who's helped with all of the efforts to help our state in particular recognize that these things are valuable and are deserving of the same types of conservation that we ascribe to other components of biodiversity. So that's all I want to say. If folks are interested, like I said, I will be grabbing a beer at a place called Rayback Collective. Write this down if you want. Let me cover my state badge here. Rayback Collective. It's off of 28th Street here in Boulder, just a few miles away. There's kind of a beer garden-esque area where you can grab a beer. There's some food trucks there. There's non-alcoholic beverages. So come up, chat with me if you'd like. Hope to see some of you there. And for the very last thing, I've heard that Steve wants to say a little something.
There's one more thank you we have to present. And it was 10 years ago, since this is the 10th annual. 10 years ago, a researcher out of CU showed up at the first Pollinator Summit and said, "Oh, this kind of looks cool. How can I help?" 10 years later, he's been helping constantly. And just to recognize, this was our first stretch for a 2-day conference to represent that 10th. The real person who pushed for this is here to my left. He was the one that thought, this is 10th, let's go big. And he pushes the rest of us to actually try to do even more than sometimes I think we're comfortable with. But he takes it on himself as well, because he's been standing up here for 2 days straight, talking. He went home last night without really drinking water through the day, incredibly dehydrated, but that's because he cares. He really wants to give. And so this is a small way of us giving back a thanks to you. Is Faith Williams, who is the artist who did the cover for the Pollinator study, as well as I think Kevin showed in his the graphic that was in the State of the Butterflies. She put together some pollinator garden signs. I know you have your native garden around your house, which is all natural, but wanted to at least say thank you by sharing a thanks for all that you're doing, Adrian.